Third down and 20.
Frank did a lot of research recently, and he dove into the value of the top picks. So, like I just alluded to, Frank, we wound you up. Let's just let you roll.
All right. Value of top picks. So what I did to try and value some of these top picks, I don't know if this is a good idea or a bad idea. We're going to eventually kind of equate the top 5 picks to a player. We're going to try and do that. But I think the best way to do that was to look at startup drafts and where they're going. So I looked at recent startup drafts. I put a post in r/Dynasty saying, hey, if anyone's kind enough, come forward with startup drafts. If one of you is, for some reason, watching this podcast, I really appreciate you coming forward. That is great. I really love the people that do that. But with that being said, taking out the outliers, because there was one draft where the first pick in the rookie draft went at 24, which is just a little bit ridiculous compared to all the other drafts. First overall pick, Trevor Lawrence, is going at an average of 8.6. I rounded down for every pick, but whether you round down or round up, around pick 8, 9. So some of the guys that were taken right around him, Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, McCaffrey, Dak Prescott. So kind of in that second tier of quarterbacks and tier 1 of receivers and running backs. Then we go to pick 2. It drops about 10 picks to the 18th pick, 19th pick in the draft, which is the 6th pick in the second round. To me, that is a little bit expensive comparing it to previous years. I think last year, Jonathan Taylor was going in the second half of the second round around Nick Chubb, a little bit behind Nick Chubb at like 208, 209, 210. So it is a little bit expensive, these 2 picks. But now if we go into picks 3, 4, and 5, it is pretty crazy. So they were going at an average of 301, 310, and 403 respectively for 3, 4, and 5. But the standard deviation is 8 to 10 picks on these rookie picks. So they are going all over the place. You know, just to give you some names of where people are, you know, one is getting picked around DK Metcalf. The next is going around Joe Mixon and Zeke, in depending on which draft you look at. And that's for pick 3. You know, there were some drafts where you had pick 5 in the rookie draft, which I think is almost just as good as picks 4 and 3. It's almost a tough decision. You have them going 2 rounds later. You know, a full round later than 4 and 3. So it's a little bit ridiculous. Now, I'm going to throw this to you guys because I want to take this away from the startup talk and more towards if you had to do a 1-for-1 trade with one of these rookie picks, what do you look at? Let's start off with pick 1. What would you give up in a 1-for-1 trade for 101? You are trading for 101. What is the lowest player on the board? Any player you could pick.
Of the guys that you listed, or what?
Anyone in the draft. What is like? Okay, I'm gonna go through. What is the player that is the lowest on my startup board that I would just say, hey, I would want Trevor Lawrence, basically.
Any of the running backs?
I would trade Dak or Saquon for 101.
Yeah,
I think I would trade
either
of those 2 guys.
I'm in the running
So
back
would you say that average, like the market, let's just say the market value for Trevor Lawrence, pick 101, is about the 9th or 8th best player in fantasy football?
Here's the tricky part with it. Because
underpriced, good price?
The tricky part with it is, I don't know if I can say that for every single year that 101 should be pick 8 or 9 in the first round. But for this year, with a quarterback as good as Trevor Lawrence, which doesn't usually happen, I think that's accurate. I can see like in future years it being maybe like 11 or 12. But for Trevor Lawrence right now this year, yeah, I'd say around pick 8 in the startup. Because how many QBs are you taking over?
Yeah, I mean, I typically agree with what you guys are saying. I think this year it's a little higher than normal just because we do have a generational quarterback prospect at the top of this draft. So especially in Superflex leagues, that's going to, you know, astronomically boost the value of that pick just because, you know, it's between the hype and if you're picking at 101, like, your team's probably not very good unless you somehow miraculously traded for the first pick and you're a contender. Like, you're gonna want to just probably roll the dice on this pick. So you're probably gonna only sell that for another elite quarterback. I think Dak's a guy that I would look at for that 101 pick if I had it. I don't think I could possibly sell it for a running back just because their window to compete with a running back is not very large.
Is there anyone trading Herbert for 101? I'm not.
No shot.
No shot. After what he did last year, no shot.
Joe Burrow, you guys are trading for 101?
100%.
Yeah.
Not even thinking.
Yeah. Just
Okay.
because think
What
about
about
it.
Russell Wilson?
Russell Wilson, that's a good question.
I do.
That's a tough one.
As a Russell Wilson owner, it's real close. Just because,
That's tough.
like
Yeah.
I don't think the person with 101 would take Russell Wilson.
That's what I was just about to say. I don't think 101's doing it because
It's just what about if you had to choose between the two in a startup draft? I'm drafting
Yeah, like
Russell
if
Wilson
on
or
a
Trevor
startup
Lawrence.
draft, pick 8, Russell Wilson and Trevor Lawrence are both on the board.
right.
I'm taking Trevor Lawrence. Yeah.
It's the longevity effect. I mean, Russ is 32. Like, not that that's old for quarterbacks, but Trevor Lawrence is 22.
All right, well, I'm taking Russell Wilson.
For me, it's so close. I think I just lean Trevor by a little bit, but God, I feel just because Russell Wilson, he's still going to be good for another 8 years.
Okay, how about these two quarterbacks too? Because I think we're almost in consensus that there's not a running back or receiver or tight end that we would trade 1-for-1 for Trevor Lawrence. That Trevor Lawrence is above all those guys.
Yeah.
So Russell Wilson, listen, I'm higher on Russell Wilson than consensus, so I'll give you that. Now let's start moving up the consensus board. Dak Prescott and Lamar Jackson. What are we thinking about those two guys?
Dak Prescott, I would. Lamar, just because he's
Lamar-
rushing.
When you
Lamar
say you
would
would,
too.
what do
No.
you mean? Like you would take Trevor Lawrence over those guys? Is that what
Lamar
you were
in
saying?
a startup draft, yeah.
Yeah, just in a blank universe, who do you value more? Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, Trevor Lawrence. Almost just rank them. Like, would you take Trevor Lawrence over one of those two guys?
Dak,
Or both.
101, Lamar.
Really? So you're higher on Dak than you are Lamar, and you're
Yes.
higher than Dak than you are Trevor. Interesting. The rushing floor of Lamar, it is just that
It's tough.
his top.
I
I
receiver
think
this
that's the
entire
reason
time.
I'd lean Lamar. Is the guy's already
Yeah.
won an MVP and his
Yeah.
rushing is so ridiculous.
His top receiver this entire time has been Hollywood Brown too. Like, it's
Low
not-
key, Dak's rushing gets underrated. The dude had 5 rushing touchdowns in 5 games.
It does get underrated, but I want to see how he runs now after that injury.
Very fair point, but I'm just saying, prior to the injury, his rushing.
Prior to the
gets
injury, no,
very,
his rushing was
very underrated.
I don't think I'm
You'd always
taking-
have 5 rushing touchdowns every year.
I don't think I'm taking Trevor Lawrence over either guy. I think I'm sticking him right behind the two because we know what the other two are. We know the other two are great QB1s who have, even with Lamar potentially getting injured, they're still that long upside that you expect. We don't still know what Trevor Lawrence is technically, but I'm willing to gamble on him over Joe Burrow. And while it's close with Russell Wilson, I'm still willing to gamble on that too.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, JT, that mainly in startup drafts, I'm a little bit more conservative with the guys I like to take. I kind of just like to take guys that I know are good and don't worry as much about longevity. But that's a different story. I think he's right around there, around the Dak Prescott, Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson conversation. Let's move on to 102. 102, once again to reiterate, average pick is around 18 to 20 in a startup draft, so that's right smack dab in the middle of the second round. So most of the top-end quarterbacks are going to be off the board, and that's why I think this pick 2 is carrying a ton of value, is that a lot of people are seeing Justin Fields. He seems to be the consensus number 2 overall pick in these startup drafts. I wouldn't be surprised if come draft day, Zach Wilson, he's the second quarterback off the board. If he's in that conversation too for around that mid to late second round, early third round in startup draft. So, question here is, we're definitely taking some running backs and probably a receiver over 102. Let's just take the ones that we would rather have over 102. So who is that? Saquon Barkley. We're all in consensus there. We'd rather have Saquon than 102.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Christian McCaffrey as well.
definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have Christian McCaffrey over Saquon.
Jonathan Taylor.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. What about Nick Chubb?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, I think it's close, but I might lean
take
Chubb.
102. If it's is this a super flex? You're getting a
Yeah,
good
it's
rookie
super flex
quarterback.
102.
Your choice of Wilson, Fields, Lance, Mac Jones. I think I would take 102.
Okay, so now we're starting to develop a little bit of a gap. Okay, how about any tight end in fantasy football not named Kyle Pitts?
102.
Give me 102. Yeah.
Are there any other running backs that we're taking over?
Who do we
I have
consider like
mine.
the top 3 receivers? Are you guys taking
Dalvin?
AJ Brown or 102?
AJ Brown. I'm taking AJ Brown, Justin Jefferson, Cam Akers, DeAndre Swift.
Oh, so you're taking all these guys.
Yeah,
I'm not
with
taking
J-
DeAndre
I'm with-
Swift over
I'm
102.
with JT on this one.
I'm not taking
DeAndre
Swift.
but the other guys. I
The
take
DeAndre
Akers.
Swift hate in this podcast is
The
absurd.
dude's
It's
done
just he's not
nothing.
102.
He's done
not
nothing.
102.
I am taking 102 over Akers, Swift, Gibson, all these dudes.
Gibson's where I draw the line.
Except for
I would take 102 over Swift and Gibson. Akers is close.
Jonathan Taylor and Dobbins are the only ones I'm thinking about.
The line in the sand where I am is like Antonio Gibson, thinking about wide receivers like a Calvin Ridley.
What about DK?
I definitely have DK over 102. DK,
So,
AJ
alright.
Brown, and Justin Jefferson.
Let's
I have
pick
over
let's pick
102.
one player that's not a rookie to represent 102. What is that player?
Like, you mean just a 1-for-1 value?
Yeah, 1-for-1 value. Where is it at?
To me, it's Cam Akers.
You think Cam Akers?
No, that's.
Yeah.
I take
I-
Akers.
I have Swift right above Akers, and that's like right where the line is right at the Akers line.
I think Akers is pretty close.
I can agree with that with Akers' perceived value. I'd much rather have 102, but Akers' perceived value is very high. So I think it's right around there. Because you have to remember, like, dude, this is a really good quarterback or Jamar Chase or Kyle Pitts. So it's like top quality prospects.
Would you guys rather have, real quick, would you guys rather have, before Frank lets us compare the players, Burrow or 102?
102.
Burrow.
Yeah, no, 102.
Because I was going to say, is Burrow
Really?
possibly someone we could use as a line?
I think Burrow's a better line than Akers.
Wow, wait. So you guys will all rather have 102 than Joe Burrow?
Yes.
Yeah, and there's one guy
Yeah.
I'd rather have over Burrow with no questions at all. And that man is Kyle Pitts.
Oh my God.
I'm sold, dude. You can scoff. This is the reason why I love Kyle Pitts. Real quick story. Just think about it. If you were taking any player to draft and hold until they retire, there are 2 guys that are better than anyone else. It's Trevor Lawrence and Kyle Pitts. These are the only 2 guys. Jamar Chase is close. But listen,
I'd agree.
if I take Kyle Pitts at 102, I'm like, you can make fun of me all you want. But guess what? I just got a sick tight end that I am holding on to for his entire career and not thinking about it.
I agree in that regard, but there's a cap on the tight end. If you're not in tight end premium, obviously it doesn't make sense. If you're in tight end premium, there's a cap on what the player is valued at.
There is
Like-
not.
Okay, I was assuming tight
There's
end.
not.
We've seen Gronk get drafted in the first round before, and how's that worked out? He doesn't win you fantasy leagues. Like, Gronk getting
Do you
drafted
know-
in the first round.
do you
is
know
like-
what wide
Pitts'
receiver?
potential at tight end is kind of, there's no ceiling. Go
Do you
ahead,
know
Jake.
how many wide receivers finished ahead of Travis Kelce last year?
I think he would have been like wide receiver 10, right?
Nope, he was wide receiver number 1. He was the best pass catcher in all of fantasy football.
Hold on, let's get back on track, though. Let's get back on track.
That's
Let's get
actually
back
a good
on
point.
track.
Okay, hold on.
He was the
Burrow
best
is
pass
line for
catcher
102.
in all of fantasy football. Better than Devontae Adams, but
Okay.
better than Justin
hold on,
Jefferson,
Frank.
better than
One second.
anyone else.
Oh my
right,
God!
one
Can we
second,
just
one
finish
second.
this and then
Jake's
start debating
been-
it later?
1 second, Frank.
I'm
One
with you,
second,
Jake.
Frank. That's a great point, Jake. Who's trading Justin Jefferson straight up for Travis Kelce?
Well, that's
But
just
what
a
if I
straight up
told you-
age factor. I'm just saying, Travis
Who's
Kelce has
trading-
done this for the past 7 years. He's
What if I
been
told you it was-
amazing. He's a beast.
What if I told you it was
never get the
20-year-old
top
Travis
receiver for
Kelce?
Travis Kelce. You never get the value though. That's what I'm saying. Even if he was doing this 5 years ago, you're still not getting. 5 years ago, would someone have traded DeAndre Hopkins for Travis Kelce straight up? No, they wouldn't have. Would someone have traded Julio Jones for Travis Kelce straight up? No. So there's just that cap there that even if he's by far and away the best tight end, you're still not getting that same value.
Pitts is
Okay,
20.
time out. Regardless of
I get that,
who would
Louis.
who would trade what for who, I don't give a fuck. You know what happens is he gets me fucking points every fucking week.
Tell him.
and I'm starting a wide receiver 1 in my tight end spot every fucking week. It's such an advantage. It's ridiculous.
Spitting.
You can, if this is a big if Kyle Pitts turns into what Travis Kelce has been the past 7 years, it's a fucking steal. That's the simple answer.
Now we're banking on Kyle Pitts turning into the best tight end that we've seen since Gronk, and
he's tested better. He's tested better. He's run better. He is better size.
I was gonna say I'm gonna bet on anyone to do it.
You guys are making me look like a Kyle Pitts hater. I was trying to trade
You
up
are.
to go
You're a
get
Florida
Kyle Pitts.
hater.
I was trying to trade up to get Kyle Pitts. I was trying to trade up to get Kyle Pitts. I don't think it's happening. I don't think I'm going to be able to get Kyle Pitts. But we're just talking in a fantasy land now where we're banking on this guy being the greatest player that we've ever seen. I get that he's a great prospect. I agree. I love him as a prospect. But we're trading all this stuff for Kyle Pitts is kind of absurd because you're giving up so much value for something that you might happen. That might happen.
Can we get back to the segment at hand,
go
please?
Ahead,
103. So we've drawn the line at 102 at Joe Burrow. We've all consensus decided that 102 is worth a singular Joseph Burrow. 103. So 103, just to reiterate again if you forgot, average pick 25.5, 301. So we go early third from mid second, probably like a good 5 to 6 picks behind. So not very far behind. Some guys taken around him. This is kind of where we start getting into the receivers, right? You know, the D-Hop, the DK Metcalf. This is where you start seeing like George Kittle, tight end 1 come off the board. And then, just the running back who falls. Who are we placing the 103 price tag on? Anyone got an idea?
I like Metcalf D-Hop range in there that,
Metcalf is a good. Metcalf's a good.
I was taking Metcalf over 102, so I guess I'm in my own space on that one.
How about George Kittle? George Kittle 103. What are we taking?
Probably 103. Yeah.
103.
Okay, so
I think Metcalf. I think Metcalf for Justin Jefferson is kind of close.
What about J.K. Dobbins?
I mean, I had him with 102.
Dobbins.
I would have
Yeah, I'd have Dobbins. My issue with this though is I place
Dobbins
a lot higher value.
Bad,
I place a lot higher value on 102 than I do 103 just because I really like Justin Fields and I'm beginning to cool off on Zach Wilson. So there's a big discrepancy there. Then it could be Jamar Chase instead, but like
I was gonna say 103. I'm comparing these players to my selection of either Wilson, Pitts, and Chase. I'd have the choice on one of those three.
Pitts is also there. It's just it's definitely another. It's a divot to me. Like
how about Stephon Diggs?
No, 103.
I'll take 103.
Diggs.
Y'all hate him, but like,
if you got offered 103 for Stephon Diggs, you're saying no?
Yeah, you're taking.
I might.
You're taking that in a heartbeat. Get out of here.
Come on, you're taking 103 for Diggs.
You don't think Jamar Chase at 103 would be a better prospect than Stephon Diggs? Like a better future value? I just you're banking on one. What's up?
I was gonna say
it depends on where. It depends on where he goes. Like, also, like, it depends on a lot of shit here. Like, you know what you're getting with Stephon Diggs. He's going to put up 1,000 yards, and he's playing with Josh Allen. He's going to put up a lot of fucking points. Like, I understand he's 27, and I understand that, but, like, I don't think it's a no-brainer. Like, yeah, it's definitely something, like I said, it's very close, but I don't think it's a no-brainer by any sense.
Okay, how about this? What about, I'm going to mention 2 names. Calvin Ridley, Antonio Gibson.
I take 103 pretty easily over both of those.
I don't think you can take 103 easy. I mean, I think
Calvin Ridley, Stephon Diggs are in the same boat.
If I have my choice of one of those other 3 quarterbacks and and or Jamar Chase versus Calvin Ridley, I'm picking the rookies.
Gibson
man,
too. I
that's
call
tough.
the 103 line. He's the 103 line for me.
Gibson?
I'm down to make Gibson the 103.
Wait,
I think it's close.
So
I think
you're
I'd rather
saying
have
that,
103
wait,
over Gibson.
But no. Don't let this go. So you're saying Antonio Gibson is more valuable than Stephon Diggs? You're on crack.
What like?
I didn't say
Stephon
Gibson.
Diggs-
I'd rather have 103 than Gibson also, Jake. I'm being consistent with it.
No,
That I'm fine with. It's like that.
What's wrong with valuing Antonio Gibson over Stephon
So
Diggs?
you're
A 22-year-old running back over a 27-year-old wide receiver.
because that puts them in about the same amount of years until you want to get rid of them.
But
That's
the
exactly
premium,
the same thing.
But the premium of the young running back is a lot better than the premium of the peaking wide receiver.
They're
especially
both in
the
their
young running back.
prime. You have a running back in a prime and a receiver in their prime.
Yes,
and one
I'd rather have-
was
I would-
receiver.
any day of the
One
week,
was
I'd rather have a
receiver
running back in
2.
the prime.
One was running back 15.
This
What
segment
the
is not
fuck
even
is
about
going
the value
on?
of the picks. It's just
we're
about the
off the
values of the
rails.
players. Like we're just
We're off the
arguing
rails.
about the players, not the picks.
Antonio
I think this is
Gibson.
entertaining.
Yeah, Antonio Gibson was running back 12, I believe, in his rookie
All right,
year.
how about Terry McLaurin? Terry McLaurin or 103?
103?
For fun,
I'd rather have
just for
Jamar Chase than
shits
Terry
and
McLaurin.
gigs.
He was
Just
running
for
back
shits
12.
and
He was
gigs
running
here,
back
right? Whatever. Either way, Diggs was receiver 2. What's your point? Keep trade cut has 103 valued less than Diggs, so Diggs is more valuable than 103. They put the line at roughly Calvin Ridley, Antonio Gibson. So we were not too far off, but I was right just saying it because Diggs is more
I
valuable.
just had a personal preference of Antonio Gibson. What's the difference between Antonio
Okay,
Gibson?
come on.
Frank,
104.
2 seconds.
No,
Frank,
I
2
actually kind
seconds.
of
2
want to see
seconds.
it.
What is the difference between Antonio Gibson and Stephon Diggs? What's the difference, Jake? Keep trade
What's
cut.
the difference?
Keep trade cut. What's the difference?
Okay,
Look it up right now.
Okay.
I bet it's nothing. I bet they're probably within 500 points on keep trade cut within each other, which is like the difference of maybe like a third round pick. You have to give up like a third round pick for them to equal each other.
What is it? What is it, Jake?
What was it, Jake?
The difference is your boy, Jacoby Myers.
So it's like a third. It's like an early third round pick.
It's like a third.
And to me, I'd rather just have the young running back. But whatever. You said you were talking like I was on drugs.
You are. You are.
All right, Frank.
You
All
are.
right,
Back
because
on.
this
Back
segment
on.
is an
Back on.
absolute crapshoot, we're valuing 104 and 105 the same because I'm tired of hearing Jake and JT butt heads about things that aren't relevant to valuing the picks. So 103, Antonio Gibson.
This has been one of our best segments, I think.
104,
I'm with
105.
Lounis on
What are
this.
we thinking?
104 or 105. So what? That's in the range of the
That's
QB
Jamar
4 or
Chase,
5.
Kyle Pitts, Trey
Javonte, whoever you have at RB1 in this draft. We have Javonte Williams, but whoever's your RB1.
So in startup drafts, you're getting this pick at around
Maybe
late
Pitts.
third round, early fourth round. So like guys going on there on keep trade cut would be like Aaron Jones, D Hop, Travis Kelce, Terry McLaurin, T Higgins, somewhere around there. Any of those?
All right.
What about T Higgins? That's interesting.
I really like T Higgins. T Higgins is like equal to 104 for me.
T Higgins is close. I'd rather have 104 than T Higgins. T Higgins and 105 for me is super.
So see,
That's the one that's tough.
Terry McLaurin's the interesting one, right? Because I'd rather have 104 than Terry McLaurin, but I'd rather have Terry McLaurin than 105. If
I don't know. I think T Higgins isn't worth more than like 108.
I'm not going to butt heads with you again, Jake. I'm going to lay off it.
I'm actually kind of
What
closer
about
towards
Calvin
Jake's
Ridley?
side. I'd
Dude,
probably have T Higgins around like
if
107.
you're saying you have T Higgins at 104, that means you're likely to have one of the top three, or one of the whoever your quarterback 3 is, or Pitts, or Chase, or any of your running backs. I don't know. I'm taking that pick over by a long
104 is
shot.
for
I
sure.
just-
And then I
T.
take-
Higgins.
T Higgins
What
is
about
an alpha
Calvin
wide
Ridley?
receiver 1, in my opinion. I have T Higgins like right ranked with Calvin Ridley. So they're both right
there.
there.
So
I'm still taking
Calvin
104 over
Ridley's
Ridley
the
also.
line. I would rather have Calvin Ridley. It honestly depends on who's on the board.
Well, because Jake brought up a good point.
One.
It's either gonna be one of these guys at 104, either your QB3, or if they're off, Pitts may be on there. If they're both off, then Chase is on the board, and likely either way, you're gonna have your top running back on the board. So one of those people is gonna be there, along with your top running back.
If you guys want like a viewpoint into how I'm looking at this, right? I have a cluster of wide receivers right there. That's like Terry McLaurin, Calvin Ridley, DJ Moore, and T. Higgins, and they're all just grouped together, and I just think they haven't really separated each other from one another, and that group, that just cluster, is also right there on top of 104, 105, because I'm assuming right around there is going to be Jamar Chase. Although I don't like Devontae Smith, I bet people do have Devontae Smith right there, and that's probably what they're expecting that player.
No, Devontae Smith right now is like his ADP is around like 108, 109.
Oh, people are starting to wake up. They're coming to the dark side of me, Lounis, and I guess now Jake.
So the other question is, and I'm going to start this off.
I'm not that far, Jake.
I think that right now, 104 and 105 are definitely worth their price. You look at these picks compared to previous drafts. These are easy, like, first, second, third overall picks last year, years before, easily. So, especially in startups, if you're one of these guys that's able to nab pick 4, 5, 6, 7, even maybe 8 and 9, but like more specifically 4 and 5 in the late third, where this ADP is at, and beyond, like for some of these other picks into the 4th round, 5th round, 6th round, man, it is looking like really good value picks here for the prospects that are going to be on the board.
I was going to say, I think besides like 101, 104 is kind of like the best pick to me to have in this draft. Like if I owned 102, I would trade back with 104, pick up an extra asset. And at 104, like you mentioned, you're going to have your third QB or Pitts or Chase, or your best running back is going to be like, and you get that asset for trading 2 spots back. That'd be my move. I think that's like kind of the sweet spot of the first round.
I mean, I think that I like that in terms of just straight up value. But I think if you need the quarterback, sitting at pick 2 is probably your best bet here.
Yeah, I'm just one pick away from you, Lounis. I like pick 102 a lot more. I think pick 103, I'd be willing to move back to 105. So just, taking both of them, those kind of picks away. Because then, I'm getting the quarterback that I'm colder off with, because I'm assuming Fields is going 102. And I'm picking up value, and I'm still getting the likes of Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase, Javonte Williams, Trey Lance, that kind of zone. And that's a great spot to be in, I think, 105.
All right, well, that should do it for this. For the most part.
Frank's like, thank God we finally got through this without them yelling at each
I'm down
other
to
one
debate.
more time.
Can we just debate the topic at hand?
We're gonna make the entire episode next week about Stephon Diggs versus Antonio Gibson. It's gonna be 90 minutes of that.